Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
Just doing a little last-minute show prep, and I was watching Anderson Cooper file a report. Well, I guess it was something that played on his show, Anderson Cooper 360, where a reporter was trying to get a bunch of white female Trump voters to admit that the president's tweets were racist. It did not go over well. It did not. Telephone number 870-275-9799. We'll have time for that later on in the show. We got a great show for you. We'll be talking with Chuck Clifton with the Patriots VEX 746 coming up at the bottom of this hour. Always great to talk to him, as well as, remember the last weekend you had the hurricane that was tropical storm and everybody talking about flooding. And, of course, they can't talk about big weather events anymore without talking about global warming. So we have the author of Inconvenient Facts, Truths the Lefts Don't Want to Hear, Gregory Wrightstone. Will be back on the show. Talk just a little bit about, some of the rhetoric. Speaking of rhetoric out there, President Trump's tweets, people just don't like his rhetoric. They don't like the points he's bringing up. They don't like the fact that he is highlighting the fact that right now the squad is what they're called. The squad of Democrats, these 4 Democrats, are now leading the Democrat Party. Let me take you through this one more time, just to be clear. If you don't know this, on Friday, President Trump defended Nancy Pelosi in front of the press and said, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and these other people, they're treating Nancy horrible. She doesn't need to stand for this, and that Nancy Pelosi is not racist. That was the last thing that he said. Nancy Pelosi is not racist. That I can tell you. That's the last thing Nancy Pelosi needed was President Trump defending him. And so then what does he say? Well, he goes further. And on Sunday he tweets, hey, listen, maybe you should go back where you came from. And, of course, the left is freaking out over that because the only person that actually was born in another country was Ilhan Omar. Although Tashib, I think her parents were born in they were born in somewhere else. I can't remember the name escapes me right now. But anyway, but the bottom line is this. Yeah, I mean, was it 100% accurate? I think Congressman Rick Crawford, he's in the paper saying actually all 6 delegates are actually quoted in a story today on the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. We'll get to that here in just a minute. But the fact of the matter is what he's doing is he's bringing up the anti-Semitic comments. He's bringing up the fact that these 4 individuals are socialists and they do not like America as it is. And I mean, they say that, that America's not a good place socially, that America is racist. That's why can you imagine the irony right now? The House passed this resolution. We're going to get to that here in just a minute, calling the president racist. When he said nothing racist, he was pointing out their hate for America, but they want to call it racist when, in fact, you have, let's just take Ilhan Omar, Somalia-born, and now she's a citizen, now she's a U.S. Congresswoman, and the country's racist. Is that irony lost on anybody out there? I mean, the post-Barack Obama presidency, the media and the Democrats want you to think that we are more racist in this country than ever before. I cannot imagine walking through life being obsessed with color and race, but the Democrat Party is. Most of them do it to divide so that they may obtain or maintain political power. The telephone number 870-275-9799. Breitbart's headline, Pandemonium overtakes the House as Nancy Pelosi violates chamber rules. This is backfiring. I mean, I've never seen anything like this. It's story after story event after event, the Democrats, the media, the left in general, continue to fall into their own nets. Never seen anything like it. So essentially, Nancy Pelosi was on the House floor. By the way, the last time this happened was in May 15th, 1984, when then Speaker Tip O'Neill had to take his words down from the record. He was talking with then Representative Newt Gingrich from Georgia and then Representative Trent Lott from Mississippi said, "You've just violated the parliamentary rules. You can't characterize the opposition in this way." And he was rebuked, had to be taken down. So basically the same thing was happening here. Okay, those are the president's tweets. Let's keep going. Here are some of the president's recent tweets, not the ones on Sunday, but the ones that I think more clearly articulated his point. July 15th. "So sad to see the Democrats sticking up for people who speak so badly of our country and who in addition hate Israel with a true and unbridled passion. Whenever confronted, they call their adversaries, including Nancy Pelosi, racist. Their disgusting language and the many terrible things they say about the United States must not be allowed to go unchallenged. If the Democrat Party wants to continue to condone such disgraceful behavior, then we look even more forward to seeing you at the ballot box in 2020. When will the radical left," he went on, "the radical left congresswomen apologize to our country, the people of Israel, and even to the office of the president for the foul language they have used and the terrible things they have said? So many people are angry at them and their horrible, disgusting actions. If Democrats want to unite around the foul language and racist hatred spewed from the mouths and actions of these very unpopular and unrepresentative congressmen, it will be interesting to see how it plays out. I can tell you that they have made Israel feel abandoned by the United States." Okay, so let's get to the events yesterday. Let's go ahead and keep scrolling down, Joe. We're going to get to, this is a very long article. We're going to get to Nancy Pelosi. Let's stop right here. This is a resolution rolled out early Tuesday. Official called the tweets racist from Jamie Dupree. The House will vote this evening on a resolution condemning President Trump's racist comments directed at members of Congress. Trump fired back in tweets of his own in the lead up to the vote, saying explicitly they were not racist. Quote, "Those tweets were not racist. I don't have a racist bone in my body." The so-called vote to be, the media wants you to think that Trump is some white supremacist. All those white supremacists out there that, if you believe the left, Donald Trump is a white supremacist that loves the Jewish people, loves the Jewish nation, but I guess just hates black people. Yeah, there's a lot of white supremacists out there that subscribe to that ideology. This should be a vote on the filthy language, statements, and lies told by the Democrat congressman, who I truly believe, based on their actions, hate our country. Get a list of the horrible things they have said. Omar is polling at 8%, Cortez at 21%. Nancy tried to push them away, but now they are forever wedded to the Democrat Party. That's what's great. I saw an NBC headline yesterday where NBC, it's like they had this epiphany. They're like, is Trump doing this to drive Nancy Pelosi to embrace the far left in the Democrat Party? It's like, yeah, that's what our president is doing right now. He's playing politics. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, several House Republicans backed up Trump. The president's tweets were not racist. The controversy over the tweets is all politics. I will vote against the resolution. Let's keep going here. Here it is. We have it. Pelosi said every single member of this institution should join us in condemning the Go ahead and hit play on that.
Every single member of this institution, Democratic and Republican, should join us in condemning the president's racist tweets. To do anything less would be a shocking rejection of our values and a shameful abdication of our oath of office to protect the American people. I urge a unanimous vote and yield back the balance of my
I was just going to give the General Speaker of the House if she would like to rephrase that comment.
I have cleared my remarks with the parliamentarian before I read them.
And she walks off.
And I ask the words be taken down. I make a point of order. The gentlewoman's words are unparliamentary and are ready to be taken down.
The chair will remind all members, please do not make comments toward personality-based comments.
Okay, so then Doug Collins, that was the Republican Doug Collins, Republican from Georgia. He kind of pushed this and said, hey, so he makes a motion to strike the speaker's words. And so then they have a powwow, and the powwow lasted a while. The House rules preclude anyone from calling the president a racist. Much of the consternation among Democrats on the floor seems to be that there is a rule that prevents calling someone a racist. Lots of chatter between the parliamentarian's office and the Dems about this. That was tweeted by reporter Jake Sherman. And Doug Collins at first offered her the ability, saying, hey, if you want to retract that, you can. But then she refused to. Let's see, lawmakers huddled. You got you see the photo of the rules there. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. May not refer to the president as racist. Well, there you go. We keep going, and as the Breitbart reports, as the bedlam ensued, the Democrat Speaker pro temp, Democrat Emanuel Cleaver, he's been down there for a while. Is he from Missouri? He abandoned the chair, something that sources present on the floor, many of whom have worked in the House for many years, told Breitbart News they are unsure. They've never seen that happen before. Maybe in entire U.S. history, they've never seen somebody just abandon the chair. Jake Sherman, again, this is unprecedented. Representative Emanuel Cleaver abandoned the chair. It's because he was frustrated with both parties. Keep scrolling down here. Yeah, I mean, this was crazy yesterday. And it was supposed to be, say what you want to. They ended up passing the resolution because they came back and the Democrats stuck together to vote with Pelosi to basically say, well, we still think, yeah, you got to take her words down, but we still agree with her sentiments, essentially. So then they passed the resolution. Keep going here. Let's get to the video of Emanuel Cleaver. But this was supposed to be this is such an embarrassment. You got to understand this. This was supposed to be a simple, we're going to rebuke Trump because his tweets were, quote, racist. And then it ends in a Democrat saying this. Click on this. This is how it basically all ends.
I came in here to try to do this in a fair way. I kept warning both sides, let's not do this, hoping we could get through. Mr. Paul had a situation where we could be in here on another motion to take down words of a friend of mine, but we don't ever want to pass up, it seems, an opportunity to escalate, and that's what this is. I'll dare anybody to look at any of the footage and see if there was any unfairness. But unfairness is not enough because we want to just fight. I abandoned the chair.
Okay, well, you think that wasn't supposed to happen? The Democrat just being like, you know what, I don't know. Boy, you're United States Congress, everyone. Yay. Good job, guys. You guys are really doing a great job. Does that give you faith in your government, confidence in your government? You got a guy that's being like, you know what, I quit for the day. This is just frustrating.
As the kids say it, well, he started it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'll dare anybody to look at the footage and see if there was any unfairness, but unfairness is not enough because we want to just fight. I abandoned the chair. Well, there you go. I mean, what an embarrassment for the Dems. Who knew this would happen? We live in interesting times. Do you know? I know 4 Republicans voted to pass the House resolutions. 4 Republicans voted with the Dems. None of our Arkansas delegation did. But you had Representatives Hurd from Texas, Upton from Michigan, Fitzpatrick from Pennsylvania, and Brooks from Indiana. And then, of course, you had Justin Amash, who left the Republican Party because he's going to lose. Or he certainly would have lost if he would have stayed. He voted with him as well. So the whole thing is really fascinating and apparently was historic. But did you notice that the Republicans, they used to have these Trump would tweet something. This isn't the first time this happened. Trump tweets something, and it's the knee-jerk reaction. All these Republicans will come out, blah, 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 say all this stuff. They'll criticize him because the media is asking them, and they feel we are so conditioned now. We are psychologically conditioned to allow the media, the corporate media, to set the narrative. And I think Trump, through his leadership, has said time and time again, no, mainstream media, I'm going to dance to my own beat. You're not the DJ in this club, okay? Your music sucks, and I'm going to dance to my own beat. I'm going to dance to a beat that I think is more based on common sense and, that most other people agree with, stating the obvious. And you can see there are fewer and fewer Republicans. Yeah, you're always going to have your Mitt Romneys of the world that, I think Mitt Romney, if you want to be honest, I think Mitt Romney's problem is that he is obsessed with appearing to do good works. I really have thought about this. I think Romney is a works-based guy, and that's why there is this knee-jerk reaction to virtue signal, if you will. But anyway, it's like if you don't say something, then it's gonna reflect badly on you somehow. I don't know, but anyway, let me know what do you think about the president's tweets. Do you see what has happened here? Now, you may disagree. You may say, well, Paul, I don't think any of this was intentional. I don't think the president started out Sunday tweeting what he tweeted, knowing what was going to happen. Obviously, he didn't know. Obviously, when Donald Trump was tweeting on Sunday, he didn't know it was going to end with Emmanuel Cleaver leaving the chair and just this it backfired on the Democrats. It completely backfired on them, even though they passed their little silly resolution. That's not going to go anywhere. But I do think the president did, you may disagree, he did set out on Sunday to specifically highlight the squad, specifically tie the Democrats to the squad, and make them defend them and all of their anti-American and anti-Semitic comments. That much is clear. That much is clear. I think so many people think. I know the president does shoot from the hip, but I think. I don't know if all of it is. I watch what he does as closely as most people, or as closely as most people in my profession. Anyway, we're going to take a break. It's rhetoric. It's not racism, but the left, always want to play that race card. We're going to take a break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back here in just a moment. I'll go over what Arkansas's delegation said about this whole thing next.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms. First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com. Iris, welcome back to the program. How are you?
I'm just great.
We're talking with Iris Stevens. She's the coordinator for the Northeast Arkansas Tea Party. I wanted to have you in because City of Jonesboro trying to pass a sales tax on the people. They've now called, officially, it's called a special election for the beginning of September. What's the exact date on that?
September the 10th.
Okay.
We need everybody to come out and vote.
All right, so September the 10th, special election. You're just backed into school. Everyone's getting settled down. And you got to remember to go vote now. So obviously that's by design. Matter of fact, we're going to be talking on Thursday with Jeremy Horpendahl from the Arkansas Center for Research and Economics, specifically about his special election paper and how the data just shows that if you want to get a tax increase passed, you do it not in a primary, not in a general, but in a special election, because that's when the people are.
Need your daily news fix? Don't forget to tune in to Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
So the Gazette reporting that 3 of the 4 members criticized President Trump. 3 of the 4 House members from Arkansas criticized President Donald Trump after his attacks on 4 minority group Democrat congressmen. That's a quote from the Gazette. But they quote, the first one up is Congressman Rick Crawford, who said this: there are a significant number of members who hate President Trump. It's a huge impediment to us getting anything done. He dismissed allegations that Trump's words had been racist, so it was not critical. Quote, I think he touched a nerve. I'm not saying that what he said was even 100% accurate, but I don't think there were any racial overtones there, and people should probably be a little less sensitive to things. That's no, that was 3 of the 4. This was not Rick. Yeah. The other 3. Let's see, Congressman French Hill. Let's see here. The resolution introduced. Okay. In a written statement by French Hill, the resolution introduced today by Speaker Pelosi violated House rules, but more importantly, it only served as a partisan attempt to stoke more political division. I stand by my previous statement. I'm tired of the war of outrageous and ill-informed comments from our president and other elected officials. This country needs less social media back and forth and more civil debate on policies that contribute to a stronger, more unified nation. We got to take a break. We're up against the hard break.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms. First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos.
on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
Not paying attention.
That's
But
right.
anyway, go ahead.
Well, I think, that's very obviously why they're rushing this through in the middle of summer, because I've talked to several of my friends who didn't even know this was going on because they're out of town. Some of them taking trips to Europe. Some of them taking trips around the country. They're not paying attention to politics or even local politics.
Yeah.
And that's what the designers of this hope, that they can get their people out the way they packed them to the city council meetings. They're hoping they can pack the election and get...
The intersection of conservative ideas and reality. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Folks, the Patriots of Act 746 are on a mission to educate you about your gun rights, your natural rights to self-defense right here in the state of Arkansas. They are big proponents of telling the folks, their members, working with law enforcement, working with lawmakers, saying because of 2013 and Act 746, we now have constitutional carry or permitless carry here in the state of Arkansas, where you can carry a weapon concealed or open without a permit. Now, this, of course, we've had 2 segments the last 2 weeks that have been very good at highlighting the inconsistency, how the Arkansas State Police is not telling lawmakers, they're giving opinions that conflict with the law under strict construction when it comes to criminal statutes. This is extremely frustrating, and yet we still have a court case, Taft versus the state of Arkansas, that confirms what Patriots of Act 746 has been saying, and we have prosecutors who have dropped cases from law enforcement who have wrongly arrested people because because there's not any leadership saying, hey, this is the law. It's been changed since 2013. So if you want to find out more about this great organization and what they're doing, because it really comes down to freedom. Act 746 of 2013 was probably, as I've said before, the largest transfer of freedom from the government back to the people in the history of the state of Arkansas. You need to understand that when it comes to this idea that it's not the government's business to decide whether or not they trust you with a firearm as a default, as essentially like you've already you're guilty, you're assumed guilty and not assumed innocent. So go to Facebook.com and search for Patriots of Act 746. That's Patriots of Act 746, and ask to become a member of their closed group today. Joining us now to talk more about this, we got Chuck Clifton with the Patriots of Act 746. Chuck, how are you, sir?
Good morning, boss. Glad to be back with you.
Yes, sir. It's always great to have you on. So, I wanted to talk to you a little bit because I've heard about some signs that are going up on government buildings. Have you heard about this, and are they preventing people from carrying firearms?
Yeah, Paul, I've heard something about it, and I actually, the ones I know of that's went up is went up on the Department of Finance at the Revenue Office.
Okay.
And I went to the Revenue Office here in Northwest Arkansas back in October, and there was no signs there. I went back in September, and there were signs there. So I just decided to call the Arkansas Department of Finance Administration and find out why all of a sudden the signs was going up. And the answer they gave me was really kind of interesting. The man I talked to, his name is Walter Anger. He is, I believe, the director. And he told me that they're putting those signs up so that people know that those are enhanced or prohibited places, and you have to have an enhanced to carry there. So I asked him, I said, did it take 2 years to do this? And he told me it took around 2 years for the lawyers to agree what the verbiage of the wording needs to be in order to meet the law. But that doesn't surprise me if it takes the government 2 years to read a law and decide what it says.
No, that doesn't surprise me either. So these okay. So let me get this straight. We have the government right now. This is crazy to me. This is nuts. So you're telling me that the state police that are holding on to the idea. I mean, they're gripping on. I mean, you know, their hands are straining. They're holding on to this idea that if you want to carry concealed, you have to have a permission slip from them. And you're telling me that the other government agencies are now making that permit less valuable, even more irrelevant, by now saying, well, now you got to get the enhanced, which is more red tape. And we, of course, know that the entire piece of legislation was hijacked for political purposes. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it kind of looks to me like, Paul, they're pushing the enhanced. He would not tell me that, and I asked him that specifically. I said, well, are y'all putting this up so that that people, since we're a constitutional carry state now, that people knows that you have to have a enhanced to carry in this prohibited place, or is the state just promoting the enhanced since you don't have to have the regular concealed carry anymore? And he told me, he said, no, we just want to make people aware that that it's a prohibited place. And also, in some of those revenue offices, they hold a driver control hearing. Well, that's considered a court. So therefore, you can't even use your enhanced to carry it there.
Wild.
Because it's considered a hearing.
Okay. So I think this is just once again highlighting or contributing to manufactured confusion. We're talking with Chuck Clifton from the Patriots VEX 746. Okay, so it's not just the revenue office. We also have signs going up. First of all, are there any other government buildings besides the revenue office that you know of?
That I don't know of. Now, here in Elkins, the mayor put up some signs here a while back as you go in the parking lot of City Hall, and you go in the parking lot of the community center, and you go in the parking lot of the ball field. And it said weapons prohibited.
Sitting ducks.
Well, those signs are illegal. You can't statute a parking lot because it's not statute under state law, and Arkansas has preemption law.
Yeah.
So I actually went down and talked with the chief of police here in Elkins, and he talked to the city attorney, and the city attorney sent it our way. They have ordered different signs to put on just the buildings because the mayor wants signs up on the building.
Interesting.
So the city is in the process now of taking signs down that don't need to be there, and then putting up other signs on the building whenever they're already prohibited under state law.
Okay, well, I mean, we've got apparently a lot of elected leaders that are afraid of weapons, you know. Or they just reject the idea that an armed society is a polite society. And really, they're also rejecting just the whole concept that gun-free zones are where psychos, the bad guys that those signs are trying to stop in their minds. They just completely don't get it. They don't understand that a psycho is going to go to the place where there's no weapons. And that's what's unfortunate.
You're exactly right, Paul. I believe since 1950 or 52, over 90% of the mass shootings has happened in gun-free zones. I don't know of not one case where a no-gun sign kept a bad guy out of a place where a shooting has happened. It only keeps out law-abiding citizens because we are law-abiding citizens.
So let's talk about, there's also some reports that we have a contradicting policy being promoted at our state parks when it comes to firearm possession by the government. What can you tell us about that?
Okay. I actually called the Parks Department to get some directive on this. And as of close of business yesterday, they have yet to return my phone call. But what I did find in their own directive, it's going to be Park Directive 3701. And I'll just read you here what their own directive says. Firearms persons displaying or discharging firearms may be ejected from the park. It says that if you have a concealed carry permit, then you can have it in the parks. It also says that if it's on Corps of Engineers land, you can have them in the park as long as they're unloaded or in a secure place. If persons carrying a concealed handgun must keep it secure out of sight and must also have in possession the license as well as a valid photo identification. The license must be valid to law enforcement officers upon request. Available. That's statute 573 315. But their own directives show that anyone carrying in a state park can do so if they carry it concealed and they have a permit to do so. So I'm not sure of where or who put out that other directive, and I believe that was at Mount Magazine State Park.
Okay, I think I've got a photo of this directive from the state park where it says, hang on, due to federal rules, all firearms, including concealed weapons with permit, are not allowed in the park. I mean, so
that is in direct conflict with their own parks directive of 3070, and that was effective date August 4th of 2005. It says effective until suspended, and I have not found anything prior or after this. So I take it that this directive from 2005 is still in place. So therefore, whoever put that out is in direct violation of state law and parks directive, because state parks are not prohibited places. Only the buildings are. And this is another thing that's kind of interesting here, Paul. In this Directive 3070, Act 1110 of 2003 was enacted to permit persons to carry a concealed handgun into a public park. Section 1 addresses this, in which concealed handguns are not allowed among the list of places, any buildings wherein a state office is located, and schools. And that says, see also Arkansas Statute 573-306, which is prohibited places for concealed handgun permit holders. So everything I have found, that letter that we've all seen there is in direct violation of not only the parks directive, but also state law.
Okay, so you don't have any answers yet, so there's no point in asking why they're doing this. But one of the reasons I want to have you on is to highlight this confusion. We need to demand better. I mean, to me, as somebody who looks at the left in this country and people who are center left, looks at even in Arkansas, looks at this idea that the government knows best and we don't trust our own citizens to protect themselves. We'd rather take that right from them or make it harder. Does anybody want to, like after just listening to this segment, does anybody want to try to carry a handgun in a state park with any sort of certainty about how you're going to be treated by law enforcement? And the answer is no.
You can't.
Yeah,
you can't. I mean, because you don't know if you're going to get the officer that says you can't carry it there, or if you're going to get the officer that actually follows park directives and park state law and says it's okay.
And that just promotes an environment of uncertainty, also of fear, in a way, that again is not a healthy relationship between law enforcement and the citizens either. I mean, it's actually bad for those who are out there on the beat, all those officers who are putting their lives on the line. It's bad for them too. I mean,
that's right, Paul. It's bad for them. It's bad for the public, and it gives the state of Arkansas a black eye. That's what it does. In the gun community and the Second Amendment community, it gives them a black eye because there is so much confusion, and nobody in leadership is willing to sit down and work the confusion out and make a public statement about it. And that goes all the way up to the governor. And
that's all that we need. Because the law says what it says. All we need is uniformity, consistency, and somebody to just, tell the people, the law enforcement, hey, publicly, this is now what the law is. I mean, and I just find it amazing that, there are more and more people finding out that, government buildings and public parks aside, obviously any private business owner even can post a sign that says no firearms allowed. And that's okay under the law. And I know there are legislators looking at getting rid of government gun-free zones when they're, at places where there isn't armed security provided by the government, like a courthouse or something like that. And honestly, I think that's a good pivot point for an organization like Patriots, because the more people that realize that you don't have to have a permit to carry concealed or unconcealed, for the most part, as you go about your daily, business, then we're going to start turning our focus and looking to, okay, well, where else are there gun-free zones? Because we need to eliminate those, because those are more of a danger. Being a sitting duck. I mean, the idea of having bullets flying in your direction and all you can do is scatter, hunker down, and be a sheep. And I would reference everybody to the War Memorial Stadium where, I don't know if fireworks were going off. I can't remember the story, but they had video of everybody just scurrying. And I
remember that. I thought it was gunshots.
I thought it was gunshots. Everybody was scurrying. You had kids, with their parents. They're ducking. They thought their lives were in danger. And that's a picture of an unfortunate picture of the way some people in positions of power view the citizens. They would rather that happen than somebody be able to send bullets back in the other direction and end somebody's sick fantasy. Now in this case it was a false alarm, but still really eerie video there. I'll go ahead, Chuck. I'll let you respond.
Okay. Another thing too, Paul, in the gun-free zones, most of the time when a shooting occurs in gun-free zones, it continues until the second gun arrives. So you're right. There are people in those gun-free zones. They're sitting ducks. They have no way to return fire. They have no way to protect their safety.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to let people carry, law-abiding citizens carry their firearms in gun-free zones, until that happens, you're going to continue to see these mass shootings until people can return fire. Because the statistics show that it continues until a second gun arrives.
Yeah.
Whether it be a armed citizen or police.
Yeah, and oftentimes the sicko or the psycho, you need to be well trained with your firearm, but oftentimes he just, takes himself out once the bullets start flying back in the other direction.
You are correct.
Yeah, Chuck Clifton, I appreciate you coming on the program. To kind of summarize here, we've got signs going up on government buildings like the Revenue Office that are now saying that if you want to carry there, you can't have a concealed permit. You have to have this enhanced permit, which there's a lot of instructors that don't even want to teach anymore because of the enhanced requirements. And we have a contradictory policy versus, a piece of paper versus what the policy is on their website when it comes to carrying a weapon in a state park. Is that right?
That's correct, Paul. Another thing I just wanted to touch on here just a little bit is people need to know what probable cause and reasonable suspicion is. Reasonable suspicion is a standard established by the Supreme Court back in '68, which it ruled that police officers would be allowed to stop and briefly detain a person based upon the officer's training and experience. There's a reason to believe that the individual is engaging in criminal activity. Okay, so reasonable suspicion, that officer has to believe that you're engaging in criminal activity. The officer is given the opportunity to freeze the action by stepping into an investigation. Probable cause to search for evidence or to seize evidence required that an officer is possessed of sufficient facts and circumstances and would lead a reasonable person to believe that evidence or contraband related to criminal activity will be found in the location to be searched. So that's something that people need to understand too. And I also want people to know that we have something even a little higher up on unconcealed carry than the Taft case in Arkansas.
Really?
Yes. The 8th Circuit Court of Appeals, this is Duffy versus Lincoln in the city of Nebraska. It says, I'll give you just a little backstory on the case. There was a couple of gentlemen. One guy went into a restaurant, a convenience store, and was acting strangely. Where have we heard that before?
Yep, in the Taft case. That's what they said in the Taft case.
And then in the Duffy case, the same way, he was acting strangely. And he left. And one of the employees went out back to take the trash out, and this gentleman is sitting in a van with another guy. He's in the passenger seat, and he holds up a pistol and just blows like he's blowing smoke out of the barrel. They call the police. So the police are looking for this van and these two guys. They find a van that is similar. The two gentlemen were in their late teens or early 20s. One of them had dreadlocks that was driving the van. They stop Mr. Duffy. He's an older gentleman, bald-headed. He is also handicapped. And I won't get into the particulars, but this is just what the court said. That Nebraska law permits individuals who are at least 18 years of age to open carry handguns in public. So it says the mere report of a person with a handgun is insufficient to create reasonable suspicion. So if you're unconcealing a weapon, they have to have reasonable suspicion in order to detain you.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, open carrying of a weapon is not reasonable suspicion.
Wow. Yeah, that is huge.
You have not broken any law.
That is huge. That definitely is. And that's essentially what the Taft versus Arkansas case said as well. And that's what it's interesting that you do have this angle, and it's the angle that the state police are hiding behind, this search angle, and arrest angle, probable cause angle. People got to know you got to know your rights. And Chuck, I'm glad you came on. I'm glad the work you're doing with Patriots, and I hope you keep it up, sir.
All right, Paul. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Thank you, folks. Go to Facebook.com, search for Patriots VEX 746. Back in a minute.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms. First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
All of the 4 people there, where everybody else is going, what's going on? We don't even know about this.
Do you think the process has been as transparent as it needed to have been?
Absolutely not. I think it's one of the most terrible things that we've seen. When you have city council members say, we're not here to litigate this, when people come up, with problems that they have with it, that's exactly what they're there to do. Tell me what other measure ever is just run completely through the city council and put on a ballot after 3 readings, very little controversy, very little discussion about it, because it's a people's measure. They run it through there. Roger Kidd, who spoke at the city council meeting, really, he said, can you name one other situation like this? What if a group of people wanting to celebrate a charity wanted the city to pay to paint every city building pink? Would you do that? Would you just...
Exposing the truth and everything the Marble Palace establishment keep trying to cover up. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Congressman Steve Womack of Rogers quoted in the Arkansas Democrat Gazette on President Trump's tweets, "While I don't condone recent remarks by the president, I will not support a Democrat effort to single out President Trump when members of the majority party are on the record with hateful, disparaging, and anti-Semitic remarks of their own without consequence. It's hypocrisy at its worst." While distancing himself from Trump's comments, Womack portrayed Trump as a patriot. "I believe our president loves this country, its people of all backgrounds, and is passionate about American exceptionalism." They also have a quote here from Senator Tom Cotton, which I think is fan. And by the way, Rick Crawford's quote we read earlier, and it was really good. So let's see. Journalist Mike Allen asked Tom Cotton, "Do you consider the comments racist?" Senator Cotton, quote, "Mike, the president's going to tweet what he tweets. The point he's made, though, is that the House Democrats have engaged in truly outrageous statements that are anti-American, anti-Semitic, anti-police. That's obvious." I couldn't agree more, Senator Cotton. We'll be back in just a moment.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms. First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
Run it through a ballot? Because I don't know of any other situation, and this shows the amount of support that it has with the city council. And if you go back, if you have attended the meetings, if you go back and look at the videos or read the transcripts, you can see the support. They've had it all along. It was basically a done deal from the time it was brought up.
Do you think that some of the kind of predetermined result the city council has, do you think it has to do with the fact that if they don't get this extra tax increase, this full cent, that they're going to have to start seriously looking at making some budget cuts because, they've been eating into the surplus money?
I think that's a possibility. I don't follow enough of that, but I have heard people talk about it, that's a possibility, which is what is one of the concerns that we've had voiced from some of the other people is this money just going into the general fund and then we use it to spend for other things and then they tack on a few projects that they have. I think it's interesting that some of these projects have been in the works for a while. Mayor Perrin at the second meeting, I think it was, full city council meeting where it was a second reading, it may have been. Maybe it was the first reading, but anyway, he actually made the point that, they've already basically set up for these bicycle and pedestrian trails, and they've already essentially allowed for $140 million of bicycle and pedestrian trails. That alone would bankrupt the 1% tax that they're talking about. That alone, and of course they'll say, well, but
by how much?
Well, they'll get $110 million because see, half of the tax goes to the police and fire, and half of it goes to the amenities of the
over
quality
12
of life.
years, though, right?
For 12 years, but that's what they're counting on is about $220 million
over a 12-year period.
Right.
Yet they've got one project slated to cost $140.
Well, that's they'll say that not all of that will be this or we'll add in. So I'm not saying that they're only going to do bicycle trails. I'm just telling you what those kind of numbers add up to be.
Well, if you look at the quote grassroots Team Jonesboro on their website, they want project needs, quality of life projects. Aquatic center, senior citizens facility, volleyball, basketball, sports complex and tournament complex, a tennis facility, youth firearms training and sporting facility, bike trail.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts
and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
Welcome back to the program. Thanks so much for being with us, folks. We really appreciate it. Man, it was a crazy day yesterday. Wild day. Up at Congress in Washington, D.C. We covered that last hour. As long as we also talked to Chuck Clifton from the Patriots VEX 746. So you can get that, the podcast. It'll be up. Conduit News, SoundCloud, iTunes, which iTunes is now essentially not a thing anymore, right? It's now just the podcast app on your phone. Anyway. Okay, so Google. Is Google doing secret work for the Chinese military? No. No, they're not. But I will say, yeah, I mean, there are allegations that they need to be investigated. Peter Thiel said something about it. A lot of people wondering. Now, they deny. They deny that they're doing this. But something tells me that we're going to have a lot of investigations into Silicon Valley in the next year or so. There was a hearing where before the Senate Banking Committee. Now, Senator Tom Cotton is on the Senate Banking Committee, and Facebook was in front of that committee, and they were testifying, really trying to defend themselves against things like online censorship, the accusations that Facebook's taking down people that they disagree with. And for the life of me, if this doesn't just show you like it's like a microcosm of our political disagreements, where you can go up to somebody and show them facts, and they just they don't even they completely dismiss them. You know, there's just such a blindness. That's the way I feel about Facebook and Google and YouTube, that are clearly censoring political opinions they disagree with, clearly. But yet they go before Congress and they're like, well, we have policies and we're doing the best we can. And you need to trust us. And it's like, wait a second. Here we have mountains of evidence. It seems like every week, just more and more and more and more. Oh, by the way, the white supremacist Richard Spencer was given a platform on CNN, by the way. Yeah, on CNN. Because he would, anything to make Trump look bad, essentially. And then Jake Tapper tweets out the video where CNN gives this white supremacist to make Trump look bad, gives them a platform. Then Jake Tapper deletes the tweet because I think they realized, And so the question would be, well, is Twitter now going to ban CNN? No, of course not. During a recent hearing, according to Lucas Nolan, Breitbart News, before the Senate Banking Committee, Senator Tom Cotton grilled a representative from Facebook about online censorship, financial blacklisting, and its Libra currencies. Facebook has this new Libra currency they're trying to advocate for. They want people to do business in a different currency. They want people to, kind of embrace the Facebook's trying to get ahead of this blockchain trend. Go ahead, hit play on that, and let's listen to what Arkansas's own Senator Tom Cotton had to say.
Mr. Marcus, thank you for your appearance and your testimony. Your CEO, in testimony before Congress, referred to Silicon Valley as an extremely left-wing place. That's why so many center-right voices have concerns about censorship on platforms like Facebook, but also Twitter and Google and so forth. I worry about the possibility that a digital wallet and digital currency like Libra could extend that into the payment system. There is reason to worry about that because Democratic members of this committee have made it a habit of contacting major financial institutions and encouraging them not to do business with, say, gun manufacturers or with government contractors who serve ICE or the Customs and Border Patrol. What safeguards, if any, will Libra have to ensure that you treat on par people with views that may be disfavored in an extremely left-wing place like Silicon Valley?
I appreciate your question, Senator, and you're right that Silicon Valley tends to have a bias, but I want to reaffirm that Facebook is a technology company where ideas across the political spectrum are welcome and treated equally. And as far as Calibra and the Calibra wallet is concerned, we wanted to ensure that people, as long as they have a legitimate use of the product, can do what they want with their money. Of course, there are some restrictions and regulated products, but my commitment to you is we will be thoughtful in writing those policies, and we'll be happy to follow up with you when we get closer to finalizing those policies.
All right, if you're Facebook or you're Google or that means absolutely nothing. I will commit to you means nothing. And here's the problem with this: they can talk all day long about this policy or that policy, but the fact is, this is going to come down to somebody working for one of these companies on their plush campus, and their liberal, far left view of life. And this is where people. I mean, these young millennials or younger, they don't like what they're going to censor. I think some of this is you got people who are censoring, who are taking it upon themselves. It's, for example, remember Lois Lerner? Do you remember Lois Lerner, Joe? You probably don't. But Lois Lerner was the head of the 501c3 organizations under the IRS. So she works for the IRS, and she's the one that approves whether or not someone can get 501c3 status by the IRS. And she started targeting different groups that sprung up in the wake of Barack Obama's election, Tea Party groups, faith-based groups, who were now trying to organize to try to stop Barack Obama's Marxist agenda. And so she delayed it. They couldn't find the server. All of the evidence was gone and everything else. But a lot of people were waiting for like a smoking gun email from somebody higher up in the administration, maybe even Barack Obama himself, although, that's telling her to do these things. You need to do these things. You need to persecute conservative groups and slow down their 501c3 application status. But guess what? Barack Obama was hiring the types of people, the people under Barack Obama who were hiring people like Lois Lerner. They know who they're hiring. You never had to tell Lois Lerner to do what she did. She's an ideologue leftist herself. She was going to do it because that's what she believed in doing, because that's the type of person she is, and that's the type of person the Obama administration was looking for. The same can be said with Facebook and Google. The amount of people center-right in those organizations are very, very small. The amount of people who are far left is very, very high. So you don't have to tell them to censor conservatives necessarily. When you are a leftist and essentially a totalitarian that you haven't come to grips with that yet, and it's just a click of a button to diminish conservative online and increase your chances to get what you want politically in this country. If you know anything about human nature, the question is, why would they do that? The question is, why wouldn't they do that? Back to Senator Cotton grilling this guy from Facebook, who I don't trust.
So that doesn't sound like much safeguard to me, other than a commitment before you come into pressure from Democrats. And just wait till tomorrow, till you go before the House Financial Services Committee. If you think the Democrats on this committee have hounded banks, wait until you see what you're in for over there. I mean, how do we know? So a federally licensed firearm dealer wants to sell firearms at a gun show, or maybe a neighbor wants to sell a shotgun to his neighbor, or a Christian baker wants to practice his faith when he bakes his cake, or someone wants to pay a subscription to, say, Breitbart instead of the New York Times. What confidence can people who have center-right views have that Libra is going to be available to them on an equal basis as those who want to shut down gun retailers or shut down oil pipelines or government contractors who are working with immigration and customs enforcement?
Senator, firearms, for instance, are a regulated product. They're already regulated and treated as such on the Facebook platform. And I know it's a complicated issue. And when it comes to writing this policy, again, I'm committing that we will be very thoughtful. I have to say that as far as I'm concerned personally, I believe that we should only get in the way in very exceptional cases and by being thoughtful of getting in the way of people doing what they want with their money as long as it's lawful. But we also need to be thoughtful in how we write those policies.
Well, thank you for that commitment, and I do hope we have transparency, because I assure you, you'll be getting letters from that side of the dais.
That's great.
To say nothing of the House Financial Service Committee Democrats, just like all the major banks on Wall Street have been getting those letters. And for that matter, your own workforce is going to bring that kind of pressure to bear on you as well. Let's shift gears in the time I have left. We've heard a lot of talk about money laundering this morning. It's a big problem. I share the concerns we've heard this morning. Money laundering is typically done by individuals engaged in criminal activities like drug trafficking, human trafficking, and so forth. There's also the question of sanctions. One of the advantages of having the world's reserve currency is that we have the ability to impose extremely effective worldwide sanctions because most, if almost all transactions are dealt with in dollars worldwide. Could you talk a little bit about how Libra would have an impact on the United States dollar as the reserve currency and therefore on the United States government's ability to impose sanctions? This is different from money laundering about individuals. We're talking about sanctions on nation states like, say, Iran, that is developing its own cryptocurrency and cracking down on others specifically to try to avoid sanctions.
Senator, I'm glad you brought this up because I believe that if we don't lead in the space, others will. And the same way that we will end up having two internets and two different infrastructures, we will have two different financial systems and two different financial networks. And one will be out of reach of sanctions that are so effective in enforcing our foreign policy and preserving our national security. And this is why I believe that Libra is an alternative that consumers will have the ability to use with wallets that will de facto enforce the sanctions that are led by our national security apparatus and Treasury. So I actually believe that if we stay put, we're going to be in a situation in 10, 15 years where we're really going to have half of the world that is going to operate on, by the way, a blockchain-based technology that will be out of reach from our national security apparatus.
All right. Thank you.
That answer right there is very, very deep. The United States having the world reserve currency status is extremely important in terms of what Tom Cotton said there about being able to enforce sanctions and everything else. That being said, do I think Facebook should take the danger of other blockchain technologies and springing up? They could get around those, and Facebook wants to be the one to be like, well, we'll make one. We'll follow us. We're Facebook. We'll make Libra. No. I'm sorry. No, I think we've seen enough from Facebook's innovation and what they're doing at this point. Very, very worrisome. Telephone number 870-275-9799 if you want to contribute to the conversation. That's 870-275-9799. Coming up, we'll be talking a little bit about global warming and climate change with Gregory Wrightstone. And we've had him on before. And this is interesting because this past weekend, we had the big tropical storm Well, the hurricane that turned tropical storm, and the left cannot help themselves. Had to be because of every weather event has got to be. The earthquakes in California, got to be climate change, right? Got to eat less meat because of, cow flatulence. Telephone number 870-275-9799. Back in just a moment. Don't go anywhere.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms. First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
Phase 1 down to Arkansas State, Senior Citizen Center, tennis courts, North Side pool and or park upgrades, dog parks, Forum Theater renovations, area pocket parks to include flood mitigation, downtown park to include flood mitigation, enhanced mosquito control, downtown amphitheater, bike trail phase 2, children's museum, sidewalks. Let's see here. And then they've got police and fire station, police, fire communication upgrades, everything else. It just, that's a lot of stuff to a lot of people.
It's something for everybody, and that's deliberate. Because if you see something on that project list that you really like, you're far more apt to vote for it than you are if you don't see anything on there. And that's guaranteed to make, I get what I want, so...
Determined to drain the swamp in Little Rock, it's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Oh my goodness, I did not know. I mean, I knew the Jeffrey Epstein thing was huge. I know that people have been talking about it for a while, and nobody seemed to be interested in taking down Jeffrey Epstein. Nobody seemed to be interested. And I think we now know why. Because he is connected to everything and probably was running a giant blackmail operation. The Jerusalem Post released photos show Barack, 4 women entering Epstein house. Now, this is the former I think he challenged Benjamin Netanyahu. He's the head of the Democrat Party in Israel. He had previously said he had business dealings with Epstein, but he has nothing to do with Epstein. Okay? And now he's saying, I was there for lunch or chat, nothing else. So what? I never attended a party with him. I never met Epstein in the company of women or young girls. Well. Ehud Barak, head of the Israeli Democrat Party, was caught on camera entering the Manhattan townhouse of Jeffrey Epstein with his face hidden. Scroll down so they can see the full scope of this tweet. Or can you click on that, the photo of that, so we can get, see, now zoom in. I want you to just see the photo. Those are the girls that came in the house with him. And look, he's in a disguise. The guy's in a disguise. He's trying to hide himself. I wonder what the temperature was that day. I mean, the girls' faces aren't totally covered like it's, the Day After Tomorrow movie. On the same day that a large group of women were seen entering the sex offender's home, Epstein was convicted of soliciting a teenage girl to prostitution in 2008. The photos were taken January 2016 after Epstein got to New York from an overseas trip. At the time, the Daily Mail reported that the 4 women, including friends of Epstein, Sue Hamlin and Jennifer Kalin, as well as a Russian model, the 4th woman, who remains unidentified, was seen joining Epstein on a trip to Teterboro Airport in New Jersey, where Epstein keeps his plane, and subsequently was arrested. When the photos were taken, the identity of the man seen walking into the house was uncertain, but the Daily Mail has now confirmed that it was Barak. He admitted to the Daily Beast that it was him, but claimed that the visit was innocent. I have never attended parties with him. Man, I'm telling you, this is incredible. This is incredible. And if you want to know something else about Epstein and everything else, in terms of, that island. By the way, I think there's new footage of that island. That island is creepy. I mean, there's close-up drone flyovers of the tunnels now. I mean, it's like confirmed that there are tunnel entrances. So it's like, what is going on Epstein Island? Little St. James. So the Virgin Islands, which is where his, that's kind of the government. So you got the governor of the Virgin Islands now being looked at, more specifically his wife being looked at into her association with different philanthropic organizations. And pretty interesting stuff. We got your meme of the day coming up at 7:50. Also going to be talking with Gregory Wrightstone, author of Inconvenient Facts. This is it's really a book about truth when it comes to, global warming and the left's, I would call it earth worship. Inconvenient Facts, the science that Al Gore doesn't want you to know about. Gregory Wrightstone is a geologist, more than 35 years of experience researching and studying various aspects of the Earth's processes. We're going to talk about the media's headlines versus reality last weekend when all that storm was coming up. And, if the left could just agree on a temperature, that would be nice, right? Let's agree on a temperature. If we get here, will you shut up about it? Let us go along with our lives? No. And why is the answer to global warming or climate change always socialism and more government? We'll be back in just a moment.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here.
For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms.
First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
I'm for this.
Well, they're consolidating minority constituent groups is what they're doing. Because if you just, not a lot of people ride bikes and want bike trails. And so if they were just saying we want a tax increase for bike trails, it would be essentially, hey, this is the majority of us paying for a minority's hobby, a very small minority.
That's exactly what it is.
But then, you throw in youth firearms. Okay, now you got a lot of people. Okay.
Bringing you your daily dose of truth. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Saw a friend of mine for years. I'm serious. A friend of mine I have friends. I'm serious. A friend of mine for years has been telling me that he thinks the Weather Channel, for example, has a financial incentive to make every storm like the worst ever so that people open up their free Weather Channel app on their phones. And every time that happens, there's a little ad that's going to populate at the bottom or top of your screen. Well, they're getting fractions of cents on that. And so, how many of you last week, when the tropical storm or Hurricane Barry or whatever it ended up being, was coming, did you look at the weather at all? Look at the storm. I did. I actually don't. I have the Weather Channel app, but I actually use this service called Windy, W-I-N-D-Y, especially for hurricanes, because you can get the app or you can, go to the website. It's really interesting stuff to see that. But anyway, the bottom line is this. So inevitably, when the left does, when there's a big weather event, the left can't help themselves. They always want to say that every weather event there is has something to do with climate change or global warming. I'll give you an example. Back when there were these terrible tornadoes several years ago that ripped through the state of Arkansas, ripped through great communities like Mayflower, great communities like Valonia. The Obama administration released their climate change report the same week that came out. And in that report, it talked about how, because of climate change and because of things like fossil fuels and carbon emissions, that weather is going to get worse. And I just thought to myself, it was essentially saying that if we would have controlled our carbon emissions in the past, then all those communities' homes would have still been standing. And that's preposterous. Like to actually think that you can scientifically be able to predict, something of that magnitude. The statistics involved, the math involved is just astronomical. Anyway, I want to introduce you again. Welcome back to the program. We've got Gregory Wrightstone on the line. He's the author of a book, Inconvenient Facts: The Science That Al Gore Doesn't Want You to Know About. He's also a geologist with more than 35 years of experience researching various aspects of Earth's processes. Gregory, how are you this morning?
Oh, really good. Thanks for having me on again. It's a lot of crazy things out there in the climate change community.
It really is, and I know it's par for the course, right? I mean, I'm looking at this headline right here from theweek.com. How New Orleans flooding risks are exacerbated by climate change. Did you see that one?
I did, and you know what? There's a kernel of truth to it. Well, not climate change, but weather, and it's just opposite of what they're trying to say. It was exacerbated, and New Orleans dodged the bullet. And the reason they dodged the bullet was the Mississippi River was very, very high. And that was due to, recall all that flooding in the Midwest. The flooding in the Midwest was mainly driven by huge snowpacks, huge snowfall, and a very late cold spring that didn't allow the snow to melt. So when the spring rains came, it fell, melting the snow on still frozen ground. Instead of all that water falling like it normally does, a lot of it's sucked up by the ground and incorporated in the groundwater. Well, it didn't have anywhere to go except in the rivers, and they had terrible flooding, and that ended up heading down the Mississippi. So the Mississippi River, when the hurricane hit last week, had it been a little bit further east and they had gotten the brunt of the rain, New Orleans could have had some problems. So yeah, it was exacerbated by the weather conditions, but it wasn't global warming. It was, and remember, it wasn't that many years ago that New York Times had a headline, "Is this the end of snow?" They were predicting a few years ago that the snow resort, ski resorts and all the others would have to shut down because we weren't going to have any snow. So now, just opposite of that, we had a huge amount of snow throughout the north central United States in the winter and into spring, and then this late cold spring. So it's just opposite of what they're. And one of the things that's really interesting, I testified before the Pennsylvania Senate last month, along with meteorologist Joe Bastardi. I'm sure your listeners have seen and heard him, and his take is really good. He says, I'm paid to make accurate predictions. That's what I get paid for. He said, these guys, they never predict what's going to happen in the future. They just take credit for it after it happens, no matter what it is. And he says, if they were any good, they'd be saying, this is what will happen, and this is when it'll happen, and this is why. And they don't do it.
I don't think I've had you on. Maybe I have. I don't think I've had you on since the left got kind of obsessed with this. We've only got 12 years until the damage to the earth is irreversible. You care to comment on that?
Yeah, well, we've heard this time and time again. In 12 years, they'll have another prediction that will be 12 years from that. The UN in 2005 predicted that there would be 50 million climate refugees by 2010. Of course, that didn't happen. We looked, in the book I capture what the population was of these most at-risk islands that they identified, and the population from 2005 to 2010 had skyrocketed. People were moving to the at-risk islands instead of fleeing from them. And then in 2015, the UN made the same prediction, 50 million climate refugees by the year 2020. I think you and I both know that that's going to be wrong, too. But the key here is, Paul, that what they're predicting, what AOC, and I'm not sure about Arkansas, if you've got a climate action plan, many states are doing this. If Arkansas reduced 100%, and your listeners actually could go, I've got this on my website, inconvenientfacts.xyz. It's called the MAGIC Simulator, MAGICC. It's developed by the EPA, but I've listed and calculated, and I show here for every state, if they Arkansas reduced 100% of its CO2 emissions. Are you sitting down? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Because you might fall off I don't want you. So Arkansas, it would avert 1/1000th of a degree Fahrenheit by 2050, and 2/1000ths of a degree Fahrenheit by 2100. How many jobs lost is that worth? And it's measured in thousandths of a degree. It's well below anything we can even measure. And that's what they're talking about. These people with this Green New Deal, the Paris Climate Accord, what's their goal? What's their main goal? Their main goal is to alter the temperature of the Earth, is it not? Isn't that their primary objective?
Yes.
And they think they can do that. And when we say it, you never hear it stated like that. But when you state it like that, you go, really? We can do that? And they would be asking the people of Arkansas to make terrible sacrifices, increase their energy cost. Increase the energy cost would drive everything else, the cost of everything else up, for nothing. For something that's so close to zero, it's hard to tell it from zero. So it's crazy. And that's, I think, the big component that we've missed in this whole argument is, okay, if we do reduce CO2, what will that do to the Earth's temperature? And if we look, even if the United States reduced its 100% of its CO2 emissions, it would only reduce the temperature of the Earth. This is using the EPA's own calculations, by 7/100ths of a degree Fahrenheit by 2050. 7/100ths of a degree Fahrenheit by 2050 is what we would do by doing this. We can't do it, of course.
And let me just even challenge that. How do we know that their math is right even on that prediction?
Well, we don't. But what I did, I agree with you that I'm very skeptical of the models where they've been proven not wrong. But in this case, I said, okay, I'll accept that your models are correct, and we'll use. And what I've done on my smartphone app that we have, you can get that at the App Store, Google Play. Just search for Inconvenient Facts. I've got this calculator that you can plug in, and what I've done is actually used their own calculations to figure this out. And it's the model for the assessment of greenhouse gas-induced climate change, and it was created by the National Center for Atmospheric Research. So what I've done is actually use their own calculations by the EPA and this other group, and I've put this into the smartphone apps. You can see, even using their calculations that you and I probably both agree that are inflated, even using their calculations, the amount of warming is incredibly small that we would be able to affect.
So, I think what we're kind of getting at here is, I think it's advantageous. If they're going to make accusations that say we only have 12 years, then, I got no problem on my side saying you guys think you can control the weather. That's what they're saying, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And yet we have people, millennials or younger than that, who legitimately believe. I know AOC came out and said, I was just speaking, I wasn't being serious. But then they did a poll, and most Democrats do think we only have 12 years left. And it's really sad that we've got so many people buying into this nonsense.
Yeah. Well, I think we last talked, it might have been 9 months or more ago.
Yeah.
And if you don't recall, my big thing that I talk about, I'm traveling around the country. I'll be speaking in Wilmington, North Carolina next week, along with Beaufort, South Carolina, and Myrtle Beach, and then on to Wichita the following week. When I talk, my big thing I talk about is how rising temperatures and increasing CO2 are benefiting the Earth and humanity, and it ain't even close. It's not even close. Everything, if you look at the big things that they're predicting to go wrong, their predictions of forest fires, droughts, heat waves, and the like, these are based on failed climate models that overpredict warming by 2.5 to 3 times too much. What I do is I look at, okay, well, what's actually happening? Not what speculation of what might happen based on these failed climate models. What's actually happening? And we see what's actually happening is an Earth that's thriving, prospering, and greening. According to NASA, up to 50% of the Earth is what they call greening. In other words, vegetation's increasing. Less than 4% of the Earth is what they call browning, or a loss of vegetation. That's a pretty good trade-off. I'd take that any day of the week.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's what and if you look on the back of my SUV, I've got a bumper sticker that says "I heart CO2." I'm a huge proponent of of the many benefits of CO2 increase. And even if we look at carbon dioxide levels through time, the plants that we rely on for everything on Earth surviving basically on these plants that developed over 100 million years ago, first evolved, CO2 levels were 2,500 parts per million at that time. They're 400 today. We've decreased almost linearly 2,000 parts per million of CO2 in that time. Since the Industrial Revolution, it's gone up 130 parts per million. So we've decreased 2,000, and they're worried about 130 part per million increase. It's the fact of the matter is that we don't have too much CO2. We don't have enough. We're actually CO2 impoverished, and many of your listeners have probably never heard that. There's a chilling chart that I capture in the book and on my app, this 140 million year decline of CO2, where we almost crossed what I call the line of death, which is 150 parts per million, where plant life can't survive. Now, that's a climate apocalypse if we ever got there.
Absolutely. Wow. His name, folks, is Gregory Wrightstone. He's the author of Inconvenient Facts, the science that Al Gore doesn't want you to know. You just heard some of it right there. Gregory, man, I appreciate you coming back on. I want to do it again soon, and I don't want it to be 9 months.
All right. Very good. Thanks.
Okay.
And sleep well. You're not ruining the Earth.
Okay. All righty. We will. Thank you so much. Gregory Wrightstone, everybody. We're going to take a break at the telephone number 870-275-9799, and we'll be back in just a moment.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms. First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
Guns. Now you got a lot of people, so the bike people and some people who want the government to build them a shooting range.
Which is already under construction.
Yeah, and then they claim a senior citizen, so now you're going to have older people.
Everybody gets something.
So, but I don't know, I don't see how in the world they do all this stuff.
Okay, that's the problem. That is where it's not transparent. And we don't know if before we go to the polls, because I have not seen that anywhere, and people have asked over and over, will we have, before the voting date comes out, will we have a specific list of these are the projects that we're going to do with a price tag attached to each one? And that's pretty much the way that I function in my household. When I go to give somebody money, I know what I'm giving it for and how much it's going to be. And that's what I think the vast majority of voters expect in this issue. They want to know before they ever go, not to go to the poll.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is building a liberty machine. Find out more at conduitnews.com.
So, Star-Lord is in trouble. That's right, Star-Lord. Talking about Peter Quill. Or talking about, I don't think I did, Joe. It's Google media smear Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt's in trouble. He wore a white supremacist shirt, according to the media. You know, Chris Pratt, he's the guy from Parks and Recreation that used to be on the chunky side. And now he's like really into hunting and outdoor stuff. They already hate him for that. They really hate him because he'll kill a deer and actually eat it. He'll kill a deer, he'll clean it, he'll process it himself, and he eats clean venison and elk and all this other stuff. So, what was the white supremacist T-shirt that he wore? Well, apparently it was the Gadsden flag, the yellow flag with the coiled rattlesnake that says "Don't tread on me." That is a white supremacist shirt. Yahoo News, according to Warner Todd Hudson and Jerome Hudson. They cobbled together a handful of social media users who attacked actor Chris Pratt this week, accusing him of wearing white supremacist dog whistle after Vulture staff writer Hunter Harris tweeted a photo of the patriotic A-lister wearing an American flag T-shirt with "Don't Tread on Me" and the Gadsden flag coiled rattlesnake superimposed on it. Look at that. Look at that white supremacist right there. Look at that.
Do you know who they need to get on to then?
Can you believe that? He put a snake on his shirt. Something tells me the left would love snakes in the proper context.
Let me ask you a
They
question.
just don't like
Paul.
that snake.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Do you know who Craig Ferguson is?
No, is he the guy that used to have the Tonight Show or something?
Yes, he used to have the Late Show.
Yeah,
The Late Show.
And he's British.
No.
No, he's the Australian then.
No, he's.
What?
I think
don't know
he's
who this guy
Scottish.
is. Ah, okay.
Anyways, Craig Ferguson.
You
I used to love Craig Ferguson.
Okay.
He's one of my one of the.
I'm sorry about that, by the way. Go ahead.
What?
Go ahead. Just tell your story.
So,
but
it has to do with this.
Okay.
So, if they're gonna hate on Chris Pratt for wearing a T-shirt, on Craig Ferguson's forearm, it's a nice snake tattoo from wrist to about middle, where his arm bends. It's broken up into 13 segments with the initials of all the 13 on it. It's dope.
Are you serious?
It's dope.
Well, see that tattoo. That's something that Benjamin Franklin, I believe, was responsible for drawing.
Mm-hmm.
And you break the snake apart, and it was and they actually had the initials.
Yeah.
I have a flag around here too. I think I have one of those flags. I think it's somewhere in one of those cabinets up there. I think I have the traditional yellow one. And I think I have the tradition, and then I have that white one as well. So, I mean, this is what the left's doing now. Ellen Page, who's a giant leftist, called him out, and some of y'all didn't listen. Now, look at this expletive. Now, so Ellen Page, this is interesting that Ellen Page actually, she criticized the church that actor Chris Pratt goes to recently, because she looked up the church, and she looked up that the church does not condone homosexuality. And so Ellen Page has been this other actress that you've probably never heard of. I think she was in that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio with the Inception. And so Ellen Page was criticizing Chris Pratt on that. And so now that they see the snake, anyway. Can you imagine living as a leftist? Go ahead and show this. This is Craig Ferguson's tattoo. I like Craig Ferguson a lot more now. Yeah. He's got the join or die tattoo, with the snakes cut up into New England, New York. Anyway, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Okay, now it's time for your meme of the day because we're running out of time. Here it is. Somewhere. There it is. All right, we got the Shoney's Big Boy drive-through soup and salad bar, and the marquee. We'll post this up at Conduit News. It's courtesy of, again, the silent majority _ and marquee says, "Our chocolate cake is so rich, the Democrats want 90% of it." That's pretty good. We'll put it up also at the Facebook page. You don't like rich chocolate cake?
No, I do. I want to try it.
Absolutely. Absolutely I do. So, yeah, you know, send it. By the way, send us a meme of the day. 870-275-9799. Or at least you can send us your meme of the day. What's your favorite meme of the day? And maybe we'll adopt it and we'll make it ours, you know, tomorrow or the next day or whatever. So feel free to submit your candidacy. Matter of fact, if you wanted to, feel free to comment on this, on today's meme of the day. And put in, you know, a submission there. We'll see it in the comments. We'll see it on the text message, whatever you want to do. What I do think is hilarious, though, is that some of our memes are beginning to trigger people online. Have you been keeping up with some of the comments, Joe? They're hilarious.
I've seen some comments for certain ones here and there, but nothing.
Yeah, I think somebody, and I don't know if they were doing this because they were actually mad, but, you know, we posted one earlier this week where we had Lloyd and Harry from Dumb and Dumber and Ilhan Omar and Ocasio-Cortez, and it was essentially, you know, what they post, what I see, and somebody just like tweeted or commented on the Facebook side. They were just like racist, like Now that could have been somebody just saying that in jest, because everything's racist now, right? This camera is racist. I mean, you know. This microphone, I mean, everything is racist. Can you imagine? I mean, you know, back to this Chris Pratt thing. I mean, walking around in the shoes of a leftist. They're either obsessed with color, they're obsessed with the fact that Donald Trump's in the White House. They're just very, very angry all the time. Ellen Page has essentially been stalking Chris Pratt and is upset that he's a successful actor that people want to go see, but that he has center-right views and goes to a church that doesn't condone homosexuality. What is wrong? I mean, how in the world are these people they're not living a life that is, you know, anywhere close to peaceful. I mean, listen, I disagreed with Barack Obama. I told you, you know, what he was. We covered it. I was extremely critical of Barack Obama, but he didn't ruin my life. I didn't have trouble going home and loving my family. There are women who are on sex strikes because Donald Trump is in the office and you have states passing pro-life laws. There are women who have claimed that they don't want to be intimate with their men because they're so hurt that somebody that they think is a chauvinist, Donald Trump, is in the White House. And so they feel victimized by that being a reality in life, and it's causing them to not love their spouse. Did that happen anywhere on the right? Good grief. I think there are some people on the left that don't like Donald Trump, but they're still like American enough. And when I say that, I mean they have this ideal that's like, you know what? I got stuff to do. I got to go live my life. But there are others on the left that are having a real hard time. You can go look up the stories on therapists, especially in the D.C. area. Their business is going through the roof because Donald Trump was elected president. Folks, we will see you tomorrow. Have a great Wednesday. It's Hump Day. Thanks for starting the beginning of it with us here. We'll see you tomorrow.